right, Latifa Abouchakra. She's a Palestinian teacher, a member of the National Education Union here in the UK, and also an anti-racist activist. Please enjoy.
Thank you very much. Aren't we impressed with her? She can talk in Arabic. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of the Most High, may peace and blessings be upon you all. Assalamu alaikum. I begin with the name of God, because my life comes from Him, and to Him I shall return. I begin in the name of the All-Merciful, because when I have acted from ignorance in the past, I know that He still loves me, that He does not hold grudges, and neither should we. We haven't been able to stop injustice in all its forms, and on occasion we've not been able to spot it or failed to act quickly enough. We must forgive ourselves this, but use the remorse to fuel our development and organise better. We need to use opportunities for growth, like this festival, to become better activists. We will do better. Now, I was a bit sceptical to be asked to speak at the Marxist festival because from what I know, Karl Marx is opposed to religion. And looking at the manipulation of organised faith by some in the world's history, it's not hard to see why Karl Marx believed that it's the opiate of the masses. And one thing that I feel compelled to state, and the fact grandmaster is a problem in itself, that there isn't discrimination in Islam, but there is in the practice of those who use it. Marxists and Muslims may not be able to agree on everything, however, we are united on the desire to rid the world of injustice. And I know one thing I do know is that we agree that Islamophobia currently is at the spear end of racism. We've allowed an environment of hate to fester. We're allowing it amongst ourselves, in our workplaces, in our schools and in our streets. And this doesn't come from the far right first. This comes from the top down, the government first. Racist policies like Prevent, cutting funding from estates like Grenfell that are populated by working-class immigrant families, but leaving ample for other extraordinary, extravagant refurbishments in the same borough. These are only a few clear signs that a good quality of life matters only for the few and not the many. I remember first realising this in 2006, when Jack Straw, long-term Labour MP and former Home Secretary, challenged an Niqabi-wearing constituent. For those of you who are unaware, it's the veil. A Niqabi-wearing constituent who came to him for assistance by asking her to remove the veil because he felt uncomfortable. Because he felt uncomfortable that he didn't know who he was talking to. Poor bloke, how does he cope with emails? And for a guy with misogynistic tendencies to say this is one thing, but one thing that I remember was where were the feminists challenging this pathetic remark at the time? I was 16 years old when this happened. And I felt that one day that could be me. I could be challenged about my practice at a job interview, or at a hospital, or in somewhere else in the public sector, in McDonald's. I don't know if you've seen that video. The deafening silence in challenging this is the reason why the decolonial argument put forward by Ramon Grosfigure makes sense, that racism, and currently Islamophobia, is the overarching aspect of discrimination and explains the current environment for hate, for Muslims in particular and other minorities by extension, as identified by IHRC research. And what kind of a teacher would I be if I didn't mention Prevent? And I'm going to go into a bit of detail for you today. Those of you who are unaware, stripped back to its bare bones, Prevent is based on a conveyor belt theory. It identifies 3 stages that lead to acts of terrorism. The first being extremism, having staunch, unwavering views, a bit like us. So these extremist views will lead the person to radicalization, meaning that their peaceful views will change so fundamentally that they're going to be led to stage 3, which is acts of violence. Now, Prevent is based on the idea that if we interrupt this process, we can prevent terrorist violence. How? By being Big Brother, by increasing surveillance on each other, breaching privacy policy, and reporting the could-be signs of radicalization, which are outward changes of behaviour. For example, growing a beard, wearing a hijab, mood swings, changes of friendship groups. What teenager doesn't go through that? danger and impact to everyone. Or does it? We wouldn't notice the average Joe isolating himself, but you would for the average Mo. Because minorities are a racialized subject. We are seen through the filter of race. We are categorized first and foremost as that. It is our main identity. If a white person coughs on the train, it's a cough. If I do it, I'm signaling Brother Crow from Four Lions to attack. Now, that was a good one, I'll let you know. Once we create this environment of hate, everybody suffers. The first person who was killed as a retaliation after the 9/11 attack was a Sikh. Islamophobia targets Muslims in particular, but it affects everybody. It's rampant. It exists in the white structures of power that oppress colour and the flavour of the decade as Muslims. This book was written, there's a really amazing book that I encourage you all to read. It's called The Environment of Hate, a New Norm for Muslims. And it's written by a really amazing hijabi called Arzu Murali and Brother Syed Raza Amali. It discusses that prevent is a strategy to shut down debate, which is a branch of freedom. Why listen to these people? They're already different and suspicious. You should all know about this 4-year-old kid. He drew a picture for his class, and he showed the nursery staff. And he said, my daddy is holding a cooker bomb. This child got referred to Prevent because he couldn't pronounce cucumber. Another 10-year-old who's describing the kind of house that he lived in, he said that he lived in a terrorist house. He meant to say he lived in a terrorist house. The point that I am making, and I'm going to say it extra loud, these people, if these people came from white background, white heritage, these mistakes would have been quickly spotted and laughed at. Prevent is a racist policy. When we refer to children... Thank you, absolutely. When we refer children to things like Prevent, we are emboldening far-right groups to attack because we're actively showing the system in place that if they're supposed to be in place for us to protect us, it's actually bullying us. And so the far-right think we're fair game. As a steward at the Jerusalem March and Rally, which is an annual event, I saw firsthand how aggressive the far-right are and answered me this: how do 15,000 people come together in one place at one time with the intention of hurting people like me, knowing there's going to be armoured police there, still not care, if there wasn't something in the structures of power telling them that this was okay? It's there. Now, we are powerful in our influence, and we have a duty to ourselves and to the young people in our society to make them positive global citizens, but not through promoting what we call British values. British values are mislabeled. They are universal, they are international. We should call them human values. Why are our politicians choosing to alienate groups of people who may not identify as British? There are people who live, work and contribute to our society, but are not British in their nationality or culture. What about them? This monopolization of universal values is imperialistic, and it reminds me of how the British ruling class decided one day to call themselves Great Britain and everyone just went along with it. What's funny is that the idea of Britishness isn't itself defined by the indigenous people. The average Joe doesn't define these things, and he certainly doesn't relate to them. I'm going to be a little bit stereotypical in my next comment, but I know this is closer to the truth than what's being peddled by the media. The average Joe wants to go home on a Friday night, probably to the pub, and talk about how amazing Mo Salah is. The white working class are also victims of the elites of this country, and they are also oppressed. But to the white working class, the narrative is spun. They're told that the reason that they're short of money is because the immigrants and the Muslims are here. Where the issue actually is, the white working class, the Muslims, and the immigrants are all victims of the same elite white establishment. Now, this narrative is being spun. They're trying to push this racist narrative onto us, and this definition is being forced from the top down in order to instrumentalize it to oppress. We've seen it before, 100 years ago, with a man called Lord Kramer. He was a respected politician of the time with international influence, and he opposed the suffragette movement in the UK, but was promoting Muslim women's rights in Egypt. This promotion was instrumentalized to create division in Egyptian society, to further the colonial agenda while oppressing the movement in the UK. And guess what? It's still happening. Theresa May is today's Lord Kramer. She offers aid to oppressors like Israel while cutting funding from our schools and our hospitals. But That deserves a clap, that I'm on my time. I need to quickly do this. But it is okay, because she agrees with us. She's recently said, religious discrimination blights the lives of millions of people across the globe and leads to conflict and instability, both here and abroad. Individuals are being denied the basic right of being able to practice their faith free of fear. But we will not let these policies divide us. I want to end on saying we genuinely must use opportunities like this festival to be better activists. We will be better. Assalamu alaikum.